Hey listeners, today I'm going to discuss what to do when you've hit a rough patch in your friendship, or you've are experiencing a season of rupture and conflict that doesn't seem to be ending. So I'm going to just go over kind of like what to do and uh, just kind of just talk about it. So for me, any sort of conflict is really hard for me because I'm very conflict avoidant, and usually I'm always trying to keep the peace in a way, but it doesn't always keep the peace. It just kind of ends up spiraling out of control, and that's kind of like how I sometimes approach it. Is that I'm always like avoidant when it comes to conflict or just talking things out. But recently, I've learned that the importance of communication and just actually leaning into the vulnerability of conflict, because friendship requires us that we show up as our true selves, and that means communicating our needs and wants and desires. And I know as men it's hard to do that because we want to like appear like we're indestructible, and we want to appear like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. This person's wrong, and we want to like appear with our defenses up, but really kind of tap into that vulnerability that's kind of calling you to admit your need, or that admit how you're feeling about the situation. It's a feeling, and it doesn't need to be fixed. It just is, and I feel like we are always approaching conflict as something to always be fixed, but it doesn't really always need to be fixed. It needs to be worked through, talked through, and processed through, because conflict is normal, and we need to be normalizing conflict and friendship. I feel like we normalize conflict in romantic relationships, but we don't really normalize it in friendship, because um, maybe our assumption is that friendship is always supposed to be like our ideal version of friendship is that it's always supposed to be straightforward and no problems, but we're this is the relationship, um, and it's still gonna have relationships come with people, and people have problems. I have problems. I have a lot of stuff that I'm working on in myself and working through myself, that I realize that I have my defaults or my tendencies, my self-sabotage tendencies. But it's important to be that we're honest about that, and that we come with our full selves, and that we're vulnerable enough to say to a friend like, hey, this is something that I'm working through. This is a problem that I have that I didn't realize I had till now, and I'm trying to work on this. Can you be patient with me? And that takes a lot of strength to encourage, to admit to a friend that what your like what your tendencies are. It takes a lot of strength to do that. So, and it's scary. It's scary to admit our blind spots, our weaknesses, and our faults. But if we approach the situation with more grace and compassion, then we'll be more comfortable. Sorry, I'm in my backyard. Then we'll be more comfortable approaching our other friend, and we'll hopefully feel less fear of judgment. And I feel like a lot of fear of judgment keeps us from approaching the other person. So I think with all relationships, friendship comes with its differing seasons, and um, some of those seasons will be like super close and like kind of like a honeymoon phase, and then other seasons will be like distant, and then sort of like constant rupture and repair. So so we need to be normalizing those stages that are more of a rupture and repair, and that's more of like it's very it can be uncomfortable and strenuous sometimes, but we need to see that this season of conflict has the potential to bring two people closer instead of apart. And it's as important for us men not to give up on our friendships and not to give up on the other guy because of hurt. Of course, we need to process the hurt and work through that, but it's important that we let our defenses down and we allow ourselves to be seen and we allow ourselves to work through those conflicts. I think another major point is that we need to stop trying to figure out the fault of the situation, like who is to blame. Usually, in our shame, we want to blame someone for, or blame ourselves for something happening, but it's important that we let that mindset go because the truth of the matter is that both people have we both have problems. We both contribute to a situation, and we shouldn't be blaming someone. We need to have our self-awareness. We need to be self-aware of what we're doing to contribute to a problem and how we could change our behavior. So we need to first let's not see the person as the worst person or they're not a jerk. Um, they're most probably they're probably doing the best that they can, and we need to like assume the best out of people because we would want that them to assume the best out of you. Okay, now just a disclaimer. I'm not talking about a toxic situation where someone else is being abusive to you and they're not honoring your boundaries or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about whenever we experience um, just seasons of just conflict and just just a season of where someone else is going through something or you're going through something and maybe both of you guys are not like as emotionally available as you were before, and that's kind of like causing some feelings of maybe anger, and we need to welcome those feelings and process them, acknowledge them, and see, understand that um, we need to acknowledge feelings without blaming someone or they caused this. We shouldn't be saying that someone else is responsible for how we feel. We are responsible for how we feel. And for all my perfectionists out there, you're not responsible for how someone is feeling. That's on them. Yeah, we do contribute to. I I will say that we do contribute to how we feel in a relationship, but they are ultimately responsible for how they feel. So, my next thing is it is okay to seek professional help. A friendship is just as worthy enough to seek outside counsel um, as a romantic relationship. We shouldn't wait until like our we're ready to break up or anything. We should go at least like if you yourself feel that you need to work on stuff. I encourage therapy anyway, but if you feel that there's a lot of stuff that you need to work on, I think go, and when you're going, don't go to vent about the problem. I would say like vent. Don't like just don't just say, oh, this person did this, they're doing this to me. That's not what therapy is for. Therapy is to work on yourself so that you can show up better in your friendships. Don't don't put the person's name down and um, don't talk negatively about them. And that's another thing too, is when you're sort of maybe like you have like a wider friendship circle or friendship community, it's easy to spread gossip about the person. Now there's a difference. Okay, so I would say it's okay to talk about your friendship conflict. Um, I would say it's okay to talk about with other friends in certain cases, but to the degree that you are self-aware enough and you recognize that, hey, I'm going through this conflict with so and so, I might need some more support without demonizing the other person. Because it's easy to do that when we're like kind of when we're hurting and we're in pain. It's easy to like want to demonize the other person and want to talk about them in an unproductive way. So another thing I would say is apologize and ask for forgiveness, even when you even when there isn't a clear wrong. It's important to apologize for just misunderstanding, or to just um, apologize so that you are putting your guard down and you are recognizing like there are like things in my life that I need to change. So that's important to do that and to throw away the swords and just try to find a common ground. Well, before you try to find a common ground, um, we need to be doing like that self work and being self aware, and then apologizing before we try to seek out like some sort of resolution. And like I said before earlier in the episode, I don't think there's always a need for like a specific resolution, or um, I don't think there's always a need for that. I think sometimes we need to allow that the space for like a little bit of rupture, and allow that like um, sometimes it's not always just going to be solved. I'm outside. I know as men we like to fix things, but relationships aren't things that need to be fixed. They're just relationships, and we just need to more or less lean into what is going on, and accept that that's where our friendship is not admitting defeat, is just accepting that our friendship is going through a rough patch, but we need to be going through it together. And that's my next point, is we need to, there's not an us versus them mentality. We need to be working together in the friendship, because it takes two. We need to be working together, and we shouldn't be having an us versus them mindset. We need to collaborate, see what, ask, be willing to ask the person, okay, what are some things that I need to change? Like, just be willing to ask that. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and it takes a lot of vulnerability, but it's important to do that, so that that allows for open communication, and allows for you to be self-aware that this is the mistake I made. Next time I would like to try to figure out a way to meet this person where they are. And we need to have grace for the situation, and um, that means before we admit our mistakes, we need to accept that we are human and that we are flawed. And I know me and my history of just struggling with like toxic shame and struggling with perfectionism. We are as perfectionists, we don't allow room for mistakes and room for growth. We need to allow room for growth, because even though it's uncomfortable and painful sometimes, we need to allow for that, uh, to grow our just to grow. And it's normal. We need to normalize mistakes, And the more we shame ourselves, the more we're going to like isolate ourselves and like distance ourselves from the other person because we feel that they won't love us. And yeah, so we need to have unconditional grace for ourselves and for the other person. So, and usually I would um, I would argue that, as you're getting to know someone and you first experience your first disagreement or conflict, try to establish or like kind of verbally communicate like, okay, listen, we're going to go through our conflicts, but we have to promise each other that we're going to love each other through those conflicts and through the messiness of the friendship. Because if we have to like establish those verbal affirmations and promises, um, no matter how perfect you'll live up to them, but that needs to be a promise to the other person so that they know that this friendship is secure. It's not going to just I'm not going to leave you when things get rough. Which leads me to my next point is okay. So I'm learning more about my avoidant tendencies in therapy about like some of my avoidant attachment tendencies, and that is to run away when things get difficult because maybe in your past friendship experiences, maybe someone ran away, or maybe you ran away, or maybe you didn't know how to resolve conflict, or maybe in childhood that's kind of how you were brought up is to run away and to let fear control the narrative. But we have to go against our natural fear-based tendency to run away because it's uncomfortable and we might experience a flood of emotions, but we cannot run away from this person. If we if we love this person, we have to deal with our fears of well, we have a lot of fears, like just fear of abandonment, fear that things won't work out. We have to deal with those fears. Like I said earlier, just in therapy, just work through those fears, and we have to confront our fear of vulnerability um, and our fear of conflict, because I am a person that is afraid of conflict, and now I'm kind of getting more used to it now. Now that I'm trying to, um, I've I've been doing a lot of stuff in therapy this summer, so I'm trying to get more used to conflict and communication and working through hard things because that's a normal part of any friendship, and we need to be open to that, and um, we need to not let that stop us from um, friendships. And that leads me to another point is what is your narrative about friendship conflict? If your narrative is, okay, this person hurt me, maybe going through your first conflict, that if that person hurt you, your narrative is to cut that person off. So like imagine if you repeat that behavior in every situation that you come across, because eventually eventually in friendship we're going to hurt someone, they're going to hurt you. If you have that behavior or narrative, then that's going to leave you isolated and alone, and we don't we don't want that. So we need people. We need imperfect people, and imperfect people, they need you. They need you even despite your imperfections and your flaws. And we need to be more, we need to approach our flaws with more grace and forgiveness. And we need to work through those because if if our narrative is to run away or just cut someone off, then we're not going to experience the the friendship intimacy that we want. And yeah, so I think my last point is time and space are so important. Um, I don't think it's healthy for us to want to be in constant communication and constant contact because it gets suffocating. So I think like my anxious attachment side says that I need to always contact the person and just be in close proximity to them. Um, we have our own lives. We have our own um, things we need to do. So it's important that we allow space and allow for time to like allow time and space to for the friendship to grow without having to put an action to it. And I don't want this to be misinterpreted as not doing anything or just being lazy or being passive. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're allowing that time and space so that for both people to grow, and we're allowing that to um, allowing ourselves to think clearly. Because if we're constantly in a rupturing situation, or we're constantly in a conflict, or we're thinking about it, and we're always if we're always talking about it, then that's not very productive. There needs to be a balance between, okay, we're going to talk about sometimes, and we're going to allow space for us to work on ourselves, and that's an important balance. Um, this is another short episode. I don't really have much else to say about it. I mean, I do have more to say. It's just very hot outside, and it's very yeah. I wanted to start talking about this. I think I talked about it in season 2, I think. But I kind of want to talk about it more because it's something that's been kind of weighing on my heart recently, and I just want to talk about it more and normalize friendship conflict. And that friendship conflict doesn't mean friendship ending. It could mean friendship deepening. So it's important to reframe that. But um, I'm all out, guys. I hope you enjoy your day, and uh, watch out for the next episodes and get excited for season 3.